You're listening to Ignite Your Success, a podcast that inspires fitness professionals to build a strong business that enables them to serve more people and engineer the lifestyle they desire. It's Brad Shepherd here, and together with Jason Ubanowicz, we're best known for running Trainer HQ, a community of passionate and profit-hungry fitness business owners that make a massive difference in others' lives every day. Each episode will unpack for you exactly what's working and deliver best practice strategies so you can confidently grow your business and make a huge impact. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Trainer HQ podcast. Now, we've got a very special edition today, haven't we, big fella?
We do.
Man, we've got a special guest in town, Mr. Simon Taylor, who runs Testing Limits Together. Now, we've got a lot to unpack, haven't we, today, big fella?
It's almost too much.
It's almost too much.
It's a big list.
Mr. Simon Taylor, welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thanks. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
mate, it's good to have you along. Now, we've got a lot to talk about, but we want to talk about Testing Limits Together. But first of all, we want to get a bit about your background, right? Because Testing Limits Together is not your main jam.
No, it's a bit of a side hustle.
You are currently...
passion project, I say.
Yeah, passion, yeah. You are currently looking after the fine citizens of Queensland as one of our decorated police officers, mate. So tell us a bit about your role in the police.
So, I've been a copper for 22 years.
22?
So, I'd like to think, unfortunately, I'm institutionalised now. That's what you get is what you see. Yeah, so I've been lucky. My career sort of... It's taken me all over the state. I've started on the sunny coast. I went up into Mount Isa, then into the Gulf. So up on a little remote First Nation community called Mornington Island, which was an amazing experience. Then back down here into the southeast corner where I've been sort of for about the last, I'll be coming close to 10 years back down in Brisbane.
10 years, that's great. Yeah, that's cool. And you've currently been in a role, acting in a role, and I was trying to understand the hierarchy of how it works.
Well, he was doing it. He wasn't acting. He was doing the job.
Well, that's debatable, depending on who you ask. No, look, you've done your research, boys. No, very good. So I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to do 3 months as an acting assistant commissioner in charge of the operational support command. So
that's a big mouthful. So hold on, you got the premier, you got the top dog. How does it filter down from there? What's the corporate hierarchy?
The bureaucracy, as some would say, and probably too much. But no. So we have our commissioner, Mr. Golcheski at the moment. Then we've got 5 deputy commissioners.
Yep. And
then you've got a whole heap of assistant commissioners and executive directors. So I was lucky enough just to do 3 months up there as an acting assistant commissioner, and probably more so for me, what I enjoyed about that is it sat over all of our specialist areas, and I've got a bit of a background in specialist policing, so to sit on top of that was good for a while to have a look at it from that level and be in charge, so to speak, and get out there. Yeah,
love it.
Do you do they give you, like, is it just like, there you go, mate, you got the role now, figure it out, or is there any training involved in that? Or
congratulations, welcome to first grade.
Off you go, yeah.
No, look, they do handovers and different things like that, but to get to that process, there's very much a development path and coming in. And I guess like any team, and what makes it successful is how they onboard you and how they bring you in. Right. And I was lucky enough that there was quite a number of other assistant commissioners who I'd worked for.
Gotcha.
And when they found that out, they were probably more scared than anything. But they reached out and sort of gave me the do's and don'ts. Don't do this, Simon. Don't do that. Learn to keep your mouth shut. No, so it is a process like anything coming in. But no, it was good. So now I'm back in my role, which is I'm the superintendent at North Brisbane District. So I look after all the uniform staff for all of that.
And back in that role, did it come with some lurks and perks like, Airbus, Anthony Albanese sort of private jets and, Qantas Club and all the rest of it? Or
It's funny, I'm about to go on leave on Thursday and I'm turning right, not left. So, no. But if you're out there, Emirates, Simon Taylor, I'll be there Thursday night up
Bump him up.
I'm willing to provide any sort of support I can.
Bump him up.
For 20 years, protecting the fine people
Correct.
of
It's the
Queensland.
least you could do.
Exactly. I'd be happy to leave my 2 daughters down the back too.
They're sweet with that. They don't need to be up
I
there.
love it. So he is a true Aussie as well. He's a true blue Aussie.
Yeah, exactly.
See you guys in about 13 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
First ball of the test going to be bowled today. We know where you'll be, mate.
Shining. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, mate, also let's talk a bit about your background in the early days because, you didn't just start in this role where you are now, back in the cert days. So explain cert to us and what is that all about?
Yeah, so I guess my background in policing is what you would consider operational. So I stayed I was either uniform or TAC crime, and then I was lucky enough to go into CERT, which is the Special Emergency Response Team, which entails a bit of a process to get through and probably leads to some conversations I'm sure we're going to have about, the synergies into what testing limits together was about. But that process was in 2007, so I was lucky enough to go through that selection process, which is, back then it was a 1-day physical, a 3-day, I don't know how best to describe it other than 3 days of not much fun. And
3 days of health.
Yeah, exactly. And then a 14-week selection course where over 14 weeks you're learning skills, but you're also still being tested. And it's funny, at the time you think the 3-day sort of torture test is the worst, but 14 weeks of sort of skills enhancement, learning to become a high-performing professional while still being tested and with the potential to be booted at any stage. I can reflect on that now and think, no, that was I do 2-3 days instead of having to do that 14-week course.
And I'm assuming there's an intake at those given times and people who start, and then it must be not all finish.
Yeah. So it's funny. So they've actually sort of just had one recently while I was in there doing the job, and the average applicant pool is sort of starts at 50.
Right.
50 all apply. They've got a course at the moment running where they'll be hopefully get 4.
4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to do the training.
No, 4 will
to
pass.
finish.
Oh, to pass, yeah. So
Yeah.
50 down to 4. Yeah.
50 down to 4.
Yeah,
So it sort of starts at that 50 level and through each of the gates.
I was going to say maybe 10, but 4.
Yeah, and look, 4 to 7 is the sort of the rough estimate that's sort of lucky to go through. And
So about 10%.
yeah, not much. So the unit went full-time in 1992. So prior to that, it was a part-time unit back in the day. Like everything, they realised if you want to be the best at what you're going to be, it has to be full-time.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like the evolution of sport, isn't it? Like
Yep.
our players back in the 80s, early 90s held jobs and then still played footy on the weekend. Yeah. And then they went, well, no, if we want this to be thing, they've got to be professional. So 92, it went professional, went full-time, became a unit then, and it's still going to this day. And it's one of those fantastic things. You see it in a lot of clubs now. You get they have a number. So my number is 134. So I was the 134th person to go through that course. And I did it in 2007.
Yeah.
Right.
So
wow. From 1992, you're only the 137th person.
134th person.
134th. Yeah.
To go through
Wow.
that level. So it's funny. From my background, I played footy as a junior, but wasn't that good. Always had this desire to do something at an elite level. And when I got into the police, I thought that's something that I would love to do because it just seemed like it was doing something out of the norm. So that's sort of how my journey took me into that.
That's cool. And so the acronym of CERT is Special Emergency Response Team.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And so give us an example of what a special emergency might entail as an example.
Look, probably the most high-profile job I can sort of that most people would know is they were the people in the Bearcat, the armoured vehicle that went to the most terrible policing incident that we've ever seen in Queensland history, where our 2 young police officers, Matthew and Rachel, died out at Wambilla.
Yeah.
So an absolute evil personified what went on there, and they were the group that went in and sort of had to resolve that issue. So That's probably the highest end of what they do. What we always say there too, there's a lot that's not on the brochure, mate. There's a lot. There's a lot of sort of things. Not on the.
You pulled plenty of cats out of the tree, have you?
No. Look, we're not like the Queensland Fire and Rescue. We don't sleep for a living. No, that's not true. Yeah, they do a lot of jobs that you sort of don't see and do that. But really, the easiest way is when it's sort of the person or the tactics or the skills needed exceed the capabilities of our normal police officers. They're the group.
Like we all see the movies like SWAT.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's a bit like, let's call it SWAT.
Look, do you know what most people ask? It's for those that it's the easiest way to. It is exactly what SWAT is. It is the special weapons version of the Queensland Police Service. And in Australia, we call them police tactical groups. So each state has a police tactical group or a SWAT.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's like that. And look, some of the things I often reflect, it's pretty damn cool. You know, I got to jump out of helicopters, shoot machine guns. I got to go to work with my mates every day and you know, at times I even got to blow shit up.
Yeah.
You know, like that you can't.
That was just at home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So 2007, how many years did you spend there?
I'm one of what you consider only a short time. I only did 4 years in there.
Yeah.
And that just was through personal circumstances. I had a young family at the time. You do dedicate. It's like anything at that level.
Yeah.
You do invest pretty heavy at that. My wife at the time had a big job that probably took us there, and we had a young family, so we went back away at that, and I went back up to Mount Isa after that. So I 4 years, which is these days is quite short. Most, I call them lifers. They sort of get in there. The lifestyle's so great for them. They love what they do, that they spend a lot of time. But we're slowly starting to see, which is good, which is a good thing, is they have such a great skill set. The people that go through this course get some great high performing skills, some great leadership skills, and really the job needs them to come back out and to start to work in the wider policing family to try and upskill. Instead of just keeping this great group of people in that lead area. Let's sort of get a couple of them to come out, be adventurous, and and we're lucky. There's a few like me that have sort of gone out and been lucky enough to get promoted up and get into other leadership positions. And
passing this on to the general policing.
Yeah. And look, the reality is there's a shit ton more general police than there are CERT. There's only sort of 50 people in CERT, but we've got close to 13,000 officers out there. So, if you look at the size and scale of people you can influence, to me that's what I try and do. But we're all creatures of comfort. And they like what they're doing, so they're like ticks, mate. It's hard to get
and I also would imagine there's a certain breed, a certain style of person that gets attracted to it.
That's what I was going to say. It's, the 50 to the 4, the major differences that you see that, like, because I'm assuming going in, I go, yes, I'm going to be insert. I filled out the application only to get in there and do the training, and then pretty quickly, I'm not up for cert. What did you see the main characteristics that would make someone, I guess, go through all the way to the top 4?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I always say to applicants when they're going in, because as an ex-operator, people will come to you. They say, "I'm thinking about doing cert. What do you think?" And I always say to them, it's something you've got to want to do. Yeah. It can't be something that you're just. We always talk about it. CERT had a different patch. You can't just want to wear the patch.
Yeah, because
you've actually got to exactly, because if you think it's cool, they will find you out real quickly. And that's not going to be enough to motivate you to go through some of the hoops that they will make you jump through. If it's just being about being cool, then you're in strife.
Say I'm in cert.
Correct. Well, can I tell you, it's the same as saying, like, I want to wear a Broncos jersey. Yeah. That's great. But if you want to wear a Broncos jersey, what are you doing? Yeah. And it's funny, you learn through some of the process, and we talk about it, we call them the Hollywood people. They're all singing, all dancing when the light's on. But what are you doing when the lights aren't on? They're the sort of people that you see, and the qualities you see, the people when no one's looking. They're picking up stuff, they're working hard, they're doing all those basics, and it really does translate into life and business. They're the people that are ultra successful, because it's not about being recognised or getting a pat on the back. It's about doing something that you want to do. So, look, I think the biggest thing that I often laugh about it, because I went in there and I'm not what you would consider the typical cert body shape or style. These were fit, ripped blokes, the shave arms, tats. They look like human cyborgs.
Yeah.
I look like a bald, hairy gorilla. And I turned up day one. I remember thinking to myself, yeah, mate, probably the wrong course. And I looked around and I thought, and I could see these, some of them were elite level runners. Some were, look, they were gone after 2 days.
Yeah.
But they were gone because they didn't like shit rubbing on them. They didn't like eating shit food. They didn't like the crawling through things. I often say I was willing to do things that they weren't.
Yeah.
I'd bite your face off if I had to get to the next level.
Yep.
Whereas they sort of had that comfortable process. They were amazingly fit people, and they had it because they could do it in a sterile environment. But life's not a sterile environment, and the work that CERT do is often not glamorous.
Yep.
As glamorous as the end is, and we can, the guys in there will tell you now, sometimes they can do a job where they're sitting waiting for someone for the right moment for 4 days, and it's 30 seconds.
Yep.
Imagine having that sort of patience and attention to detail and planning.
Yep.
4 days for 30 seconds. So there's a lot that, if you see the Hollywood movie and you think that's what it's going to be, if you're going in there thinking that, then you're probably in a bit of strife early on.
It's hearing it, that's why I was relating it back to business, and I've said to people as well, similar thing. If you're not prepared to do what it takes in the short term to get the long-term results, business is not for you. There's so many people that go, I like the idea of it, but then when it comes to doing all the sales calls, the rejections, the hard learnings, if you're not prepared for that period, business is not for you. You're better off going back and getting a job. If you can't handle the lows, then it's going to be a tough gig for you. And then if you don't build that resilience, the patience, the consistency, all these traits that we see as high performers, and you go, 20 years we've been doing this. I can meet someone within 10 minutes. Go, I hope you make it. Doubt it though. Yeah,
and I think it's, you're exactly right. Owning a small business is. Everyone thinks it'll be glamorous. It's like I want to own a coffee shop until you have to be there at 4:30 to start it up, and you're still there at 5 o'clock cleaning it out and doing all those things, because that's the successful ones. The ones that want to do it so their mates can come and get half-price coffees, they're in strife very early on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true.
You mentioned that thing about what you're doing when people aren't watching and so forth, and knowing you for the better part of a decade. We get to train together, all that sort of stuff. Like I'd say that statement personifies you. I've watched you around, what you do, and your work ethic and so forth. So just want to acknowledge that, because I've seen that in your personal life and what you do. It's cool to watch, Yeah,
and hey, thank you. But can I tell you, that was something that I reckon I didn't have as much until I went through that process. I didn't understand that. And it's funny, recently I got to do a leadership reflection at a forum that I was at, and it's the one thing that I look back on now. I don't know if regret's the right word, but I could play sport at an okay level, but geez, I was lazy. Do you know what I mean? And it's funny because I have a really great relationship with one of my old teachers who went on to coach, and he coached at Q Cup and different. And I still do a bit of work with him and for him with some of his junior teams now with the TLT. And I often reminisce with him and think, I don't know how he put up with me. And then I also think, well, imagine if I had the same work ethic I had at 30, at 18, what could I have done? The reality is that some people have got to go through life and experiences.
That's right.
That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
For me, I had to go through that to get to where I'm better. And by no means am I a final product. I think I've fallen over. And I go to your point, Jay. So we always say it with the teams when people we work, the greatest lesson I learned at CERT was to fail.
Yeah.
And failure was part of it, because I think the fear of failure, and we often see it, is it can paralyse people.
Yeah. They don't even start.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to get this perfect.
Yeah.
There's a cost for doing that. You've got to make the best possible decision with the best possible information you have at the time, and be confident enough you'll make another one moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to accept that right off the bat. It's gonna happen. And we talk about our seminars going, we don't want to compete with anyone in the room, but we reckon we've failed about 1,000 times greater than anybody else here, and that's why we are where we are.
100%.
Yeah. So you alluded to, I guess, the community, the brotherhood, the connection, right? So just give us a brief summary of that experience.
Oh, yeah, look, it very much so, and probably why it attracts different types there. But it's very much like being in a sports team. So every day, it had a locker room. Every day you go there, you're with your mates, you're goofing around, you have that competition. Look, it does take it does take a unique type of person to do that style of role. And that in itself then leads to unique styles of challenges for the leadership and the running of that. And I think we're having a bit of a chat before we got on here. You can't put 45 high performers in a room and expect that there ain't going to be fireworks. You can't put 45 blokes who all think they are the best and not expect that there's going to be rub. And that's why I say there is no such thing as a utopic workforce
I could just imagine now they're in the competition. I just piss quicker than you. And one.
Done. And can I tell you, it's normally in the porta pot, and it's the amount of flaps that you can do.
Have a look at that stream.
Yeah, exactly. We're as childish as they come.
And we say it, Rand, in this office too, like you got to have thick skin to walk through the doors of this office, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like all the 18 years of us doing this, and like it's got to be fun, right? But there's that healthy level of competitiveness, like there's all the different layers and levels. It's so cool,
That's why if anybody else externally competition trying to put shit on us or whatever, is that it? That's not even a Monday morning at 8 a.m. in our office. I said you're going to do a lot better than that if you want to get it under our skin. That's nothing.
And we often made the joke: don't have a hobby and don't be good at anything, because it'll never be good enough.
And that connection is what has inspired Testing Limits together. So it's you and a bunch of your mates, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about how TLT launched. When did it start? Like what year?
So I'll take it right back, because it was funny. We were having this conversation. I actually rang one of the boys who's the fellow director. There's sort of 6 of us together. I rang him on the way here, and it's funny. We all have, probably one thing I will do is we all have coming out of cert as a call sign. So because of the nature of the work they do, those that are still in the unit use this, do some covert work. So we each got a call sign. So there's 6 of us there. My call sign was Grub. One of the other call signs who I rang on the way, he is Saka, and the others are Revlon, Button, and Beaker. So, each one of them has a backstory. But yeah, look, it started way back when in 2009. My cousin Nathan Clark was a development coach at the Brisbane Lions, and as we do, we were drinking rum and telling stories about our different sort of where we were in life, and just came about that I was reminiscing about the 3-dayer again, and just saying, the skills and the tests, and one of the big things that I reckon this 3-day does amazingly for leaders is it exposes traits of individuals. So you get a really good look at a person, to your point. Yeah. You go,
especially under pressure.
Well, I don't know. The first time pressure came on, he just turned. And look, a couple of times there, so there's a lot of learning and a lot of exposure to people's rawest and what they're going to do under pressure. Yeah. Because that, in that line of work, that's what you need to know. We were talking about how that translates to high-performing sports and what they do in pre-season, and your ability to uncover these behavioural traits of players, some who are getting paid, up to $1 million. You want to know what that person's going to do under pressure, don't you? Yeah. So, the conversation came, and I said, I could do up a 3-day course for a sport team. He goes, no, you couldn't. I said, yeah. I said, yeah, of course I can. Yeah. And then it was, and we did our first one. It would have been the pre-season of 2010 with the Lions, and you just went cracking. They loved it so much they brought us back the next year, and then that would have been 11, and then just sort of life sort of took us apart. I went up to Mount Isa at the time. A couple of the other boys who are now part of TLT were still in cert at the time. We came down. It would have been about sort of 16, 17, we got asked again by Australian Cricket to do some work with their youth development, their women's youth development, their under-20s. And we went and we obviously approached the QPS at the time. And look, to their credit, QPS said, look, we can't get involved in paid events like this where we could do it. We wanted to do it because at the time there'd been a recent police death and we were looking to try and donate and raise some money for the family of the fallen officer. Yeah. It really when we look at it, it did. TLT had that real higher purpose of, we had a skill set. We thought it was translatable to someone. We could make a bit of money and give it back in there. Look, in the end, the service said, look, we can't do it. There's lots of issues and we get that. And so the 6 of us came together and we had one rule when we came. We all put $1,000 in and we just said, we are not losing our friendship over this. And I can say, 7, 8 years later, if anything, we're better mates than what we are.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've been lucky enough to know these two blokes and deal with them. And obviously your business is being business.
Yeah.
And I constantly say to these two blokes, we are the worst businessmen ever. And we are. I think I've told Brad the story about we set up a website as you do when you start a new business. And we, of course, set it up with photos and buttons and all sorts of things. Obviously, one of the buttons is Inquire Now.
Yep.
We didn't obviously realise you should check where that Inquire Now goes. So we had people tell us that they'd been inquiring with us for 18 months and they couldn't understand. We just told them we were that exclusive.
That elite, that high level.
So sorry, we just bombarded with it. We couldn't get back to you.
Yeah. We may have missed Google and a few other people, which we could be millionaires right now, but we don't know. So look, that's where we started, but really we started with, and they were called the NPS, the National Performance Squad for the under-20s, and probably our first really big, what I would say our big client was Penrith.
Penrith Panthers.
The Panthers came on board so it was the end of 19 into 20, so their sort of 2020 season.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to work with that group that then essentially for the next 2 years that went on to make the grand final that year, lose to Melbourne, and then, as we know, have now won 4. That sort of started our relationship into more and becoming sort of bigger and working with more NRL sides, but even more sporting teams. As our sort of brand became a bit bigger, we've been quite blessed to work with a number of different teams.
That's so cool. I guess what I hear from that statement is TLT is responsible for the Penrith Panthers 4-peat of grand finals in the NRL. Are we hearing that correctly?
Geez, I'd love to be able to say that. I really would. No, but look, we ride the coattails. Don't worry about that. Look, and we're blessed to say that we've still got a relationship with us and they still speak highly enough of us. And actually, if you read Ivan's new book, he talks about the camp with us. Don't get me wrong, and maybe we'll touch with this, and we always say that there is no mystery about what we do. What we do is we expose people's character and give them the tool. So if you've got a group of rotten people, all it's going to do is expose a rotten core and we'll give you tools and whether you can train them to do it. So I guess what I'm saying, they had a really unique bunch of kids at that time. Like if you look back at when we were lucky
come up together, didn't they, the juniors?
Correct, but we got them after that year. They'd sort of, they hadn't done it. They just missed the 8. Ivan had just come back to them.
That's right.
But they brought in 2 people that year that I think when they really unpack it and look back on how their culture and where it started, they brought in Appy Coruscant and Kurt Capewell, who really weren't superstars. But can I tell you, from a cultural point of view and a leadership point of view, for 2 guys that had been with the club for next to no time, were just outstanding. Really culture setters, good people, held to high, low maintenance, hard workers. I mean, they had talent too, and they had some people that I still talk about to this day, when I reflect on different things. I mean, Dylan Edwards, James Fisher-Harris, people, Liam Martin, Isaiah, these guys weren't, household names back then. But can I tell you, had a work ethic and a toughness that, you can now see play out week in, week out. Mitch Kenny came, just, a really good group of kids that were well connected. And we talk about, we're big on the four sort of elements of high performance being, competence, confidence, connection, and character.
Yeah.
They had connection built into them because they'd grown up together playing in that. So, if you look at a lot of the coaches from around the world or a lot of the high performance, they'll all tell you the connection is a big part of what goes on.
Yeah. And then you were talking to me earlier about then it's not just the A grade team or the top team, it's the top 30. It's all through their junior development, the whole bit, the culture, and I guess people want to go and play for them, right? They want to be there because of that as well, not just because they're winning, but because of the way that they operate.
No, and look, Hayden Knowles was the high performance guy that sort of got onto us through an intermediate trim. That's what we're laughing about there. We didn't exist really out in the ether, and Hayden was looking for this style of camp, and he got onto a friend of ours who was ex-cert as well, but in the NRL system through high performance, and he said, look, I can't do it. Ring this guy, and that guy happened to be Saka. And, of course, Hayden Knowles has rung Saka and said, we're after this, can you do it? Saka said, yeah, of course we can. We'd never done anything like it. So, that started the thing. And one of the big things Hayden and Ivan and that whole club were about, and that was that second year after they'd made the grand final. We didn't go back and sort of work as much with the top 30. We actually went back and worked with their development guys and those that hadn't been exposed to it, because what they wanted was that consistency in language, that consistency in work ethic, the fundamentals of what they thought their culture and why that culture was going to be important had to go from, everything from SG Ball all the way through. So, they're very clever in the way that I don't think clever's the way, they just set high standards. And they're uncompromising with.
I like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Very brave.
Yeah.
Yep. So cool. Yeah. Values, standards, and ethics. It's just such an important part of, such an integral part of it.
Yeah. Look, we're a huge one on values. In fact, most of them, and even that particular camp, it was, and a lot of them we spoke, well, what are your values? And the big thing you can see, and you would have seen it throughout business, and we often talk about it, values can't just be a decal. They can't be that word that sits on your wall. Yeah. And if you go into some of these high performance centres, a different thing, you'll see a photo and it'll say trust. And and then you'll start unpacking it and you'll go, this is a club that has no trust.
Yeah.
And they're walking past a wall every day that says trust.
Yeah.
And we often say to them that's the most cancerous thing that you can do, because here's the people that walk past and sees a photo of someone and goes, oh, we're real trusting, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it starts a really poor narrative in that. So, we really drive into them. And now, as we've evolved in our product, and we go, is having values first is essential. And if they're solid on them, perfect. Yeah. What we then ask is, what are the behaviours that sit underneath it?
That's right.
Because the drama is, I don't know, most people will have a word and we'll go, okay, well, what's your indicators? Tell me what does that look like for you?
That's right. How do you get feedback that you're living it?
Yeah. Yeah, we were lucky enough to work with a guy, and we now often talk about, values drive behaviours.
Yep.
Behaviours drive standards.
Yep.
And your standards drive your culture.
Yeah,
and it's a nice, easy progression as you go through it.
Yeah.
You've got to sort of have that. Saka often, and when we talk about that, people say, I've got, that's my value. My value of, is family or trust. And the way it was described to us, and we often talk to them, well, okay, if I was to put a GoPro on your head and put it on there for a week, follow it when you're around, is that what I would see?
Yeah.
And you can see with people, I'm family. Yeah, I'm family. And then they're out on the piss, not at home. They're out, carrying on, doing all the things you go, well, that's not really family.
Mostly the people who've got to tell you what their values aren't living it. They're still trying to convince themselves that that's true. People that know their values, then they are living it. Like you said, the GoPro thing. I don't need to walk around telling you what my values are because I'm too busy getting on with it and doing it. But if I'm trying to convince you or you that, oh yeah, like honesty is my, I'm an honest person. Well, now I don't believe you because why did you have to tell me that? I wasn't thinking that. Now you've said, oh no, I'm honest. You can trust me. Well, I wasn't thinking anything else until you said it. Now I'm suspicious.
Yeah, and we often talk too about that play. Values shouldn't be aspirational.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be, I hope to be trustful. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that happens a lot.
You are or you're not.
Yeah, well, yeah, and look, the notion that you're going to be 100% all the time is
bullshit.
It's
Yeah,
fanciful.
yeah.
It really is. And I, they often talk about the leader's compass and different things like values are your compass, and every now and again you're going to go east or west of it. You just got to tick yourself back on, and that's about checking yourself underneath those behaviours of doing it. Oh shit, that wasn't pretty good today.
We've had moments like that. Like back, when I've, you might. It sounds innocent. You go, I've said something, but it wasn't actually how I was truly feeling, and I've rung him back up and go, actually, that wasn't the case at all. That's not how I truly felt. I said this because I thought that's what I needed to say and you needed to hear, but that's actually not what I'm feeling. And I owe you an apology because I need to be honest about that. So that's the part that I like, is that you can go, hang on, actually, that's not correct, or that's not true. This is what I'm truly feeling. You do have the ability to go back and reset, because, you're not going to get it right every single time. Of course you're not.
No, and I think sometimes too they talk, the thing that we hear a lot when we go into different teams and that when you're trying to create that area of trust or psychological safety or whatever you want to call it there, the ability for people to have what they call difficult conversations.
Yep.
And I imagine in your world too, sometimes you've got to have difficult conversations with your clients.
Correct.
Yeah. You've got to have difficult conversations.
A lot of the times.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's right. It's critical. It's a critical skill to and it is a skill to be able to master. And number one, to go, okay, I'm prepared to have the conversation, and there's a way to deliver it, because again, it's something that doesn't get taught on how to approach one of those conversations. And
you're doing it because you care. It's
Yeah.
like, if I don't tell you this, it could impact your business, your finance, your family, your future.
Yeah.
So even though it might be uncomfortable for you or for me, we're going to have this chat because I care enough about bringing it up.
Yeah, and we live by the line of the only difficult conversation's the one you're not having. And the easy way to explain that too is saying you got to be talking to your people or you're talking to your teammates all the time, because otherwise, if the first time you're having a conversation with someone is to deliver a shitogram and tell them how shit they're playing and all that, human nature is my back's going to go up and go.
Of course.
Whereas if we have a rapport or connection, if we create that and we're always talking, I'm going, hey, Jace, how are you? How's family? How's kids going? Yeah, good. And then next time it's got to be, hey, Jace, mate, remember we talked about we're always going to push up to the 50 and you're going to, mate, you go, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Whereas if there's no connection and that conversation is that, and you're not talking, that's where it becomes a real issue for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I love it.
So the Penrith Panthers aren't the only NRL team.
No.
Look, the rap sheet's starting to grow. Who else we got there?
It is. We've been lucky enough to work with the Cowboys, the Titans, the Newcastle Knights, the Bulldogs last year, which was great.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
Your team and the Bulldogs went from like almost wooden spooners, didn't they, up until hit the finals or something, right?
Yeah. What a great story that is. And look, tip your hat to Ciro, Cameron Ciraldo, because
he'd come from the Panthers, right?
Yeah, and look, that's our connection.
Yeah,
our connection into
success
the Bulldogs.
leaves clues, right?
Correct. So Ciro sort of got in contact with us, and we sat down. But he'd had a tough year. You're a Bulldogs, so that year
walking
before,
into that,
and then he made a decision and picked up Stephen Crichton, and it's funny because we had dealt with Stephen at Penrith that year.
I saw him in some of the videos.
Correct. So, you look at Stephen there, and it was funny when he came back up to the camp and it was at the same place, and we had a good laugh at the start. He was a kid when he was at Penrith.
You could tell.
He came back up here, and he was an imposing footy player. Not just that, he was a leader.
Yeah.
And I know it's funny, James Hooper on Fox Sport keeps calling us commandos or army and regiment. and it's funny, we have to have this conversation with people is we're not an army camp, and it's no disrespect to army people. It's just none of us have been in the army.
It's not what you know,
like, so we don't, just so people are out there know, we've never said we're commandos. We've never said we're in the SAS. We're not ninjas. We are just 6 guys who absolutely love leadership, resilience, values, and training high performance. And that sort of that came about. And the reason why I bring that up is because they keep telling the story of how Reed Marnie, who's a great kid too, was the captain, came up and essentially at the end of it, we got asked by Canterbury to sort of, rank the leaders. And obviously Stephen's leadership through it was just phenomenal. And I think if you would speak to Reed, he'd tell you, no, look, he had an aura, he had a presence, he had everything that he was doing sort of put him in that place where it was just a natural progression. And look, they got criticised pretty heavily about some of the people they brought in, but they brought in character.
Yeah.
And, and if you reflect back to sort of... Canterbury did, Jaden Salmon, they built Kurt Mann, what people would call bit players, which I think is unfair on those people. But I'll tell you, they're all just hardworking, tough people that added to a system where you've got a coach who believes in fundamentals and toughness. I mean, look, what a marriage made in heaven from that perspective. But, look, you come in there, a new guy like Stephen came in and he really just galvanised what they were doing. Yeah. And the beauty of it is that 3 days with us is we gave him that experience. Yeah. We gave him that ability to connect really under hard work. I often say, Saka laughs at me, but he agrees now, is that I believe to create true connection, there's probably 2 ways to do it: storytelling and shared suffering.
Yeah, agree. Agree.
Getting in the trenches with someone, you create a level of connection. You go, I know what they've been through.
You get it.
You get it. Yeah. Or that storytelling, is that human side. Yeah. It's that vulnerability. It's that ability to really connect on a deeper level.
Yeah. And people, when you're open and honest and vulnerable, there's no better way to connect with people. Yeah, to share some of yourself, your real self.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where your strength lies, your real strength, right? And your vulnerability, and in those environments, right? This is where it's going to expose it completely.
100%. And to that point too, they always talk about authenticity as being one of those great traits in a real successful. That's who they are. And at times you got to embrace that, because your authentic you won't be perfect. And I often say, to go back to my experience that we talked about at the start, going up into that level as an acting assistant commissioner, but my background was really operational. And to coin a phrase that's been said about me a number of times, is I need a bit of polish. I'm a bit rough around the edges, but that's who I am. I watched an amazing conversation, a guy who ended up becoming CEO at one of the big 4, the Price, I can't remember his. He was a bit the same. He was a bit of a larrikin, and he had to sort of understand he had a reputation of being a larrikin, but when he tried to change it, he wasn't authentic. He said what he had to do was embrace who he was and tailor the way that he went in to a meeting or a board or a different thing, while still being authentic to him being a bit rough and ready.
That's right.
And I think it's a great lesson for anyone in business or in team. You've got to be who you are within the system that you're working with.
Yeah, you can see it. Well, I mean, I can certainly after these years, you can see someone that's how they are on stage, behind the camera, in person. That's how they would be in person, versus like I can see the act, and on stage they want to put this out there, but then you speak to them backstage, you go, where's that guy that was up there? That's a different person, and I've seen that a lot as well.
Yeah, we say it ourselves here at Train HQ. We say, we don't take ourselves too seriously, but what do we take serious? Well, it's the fact that no matter where you see us, at what point in time, you're going to see the same version of Jason. You're going to see the same version of Brad, whether that's on stage or whatever it might be, and that represents us, and that's high on our values, right?
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to go trained me in not only business but emotional intelligence and speaking. That was the major thing he taught me. He said, mate, just be who you are here up there. Craft your skills, learn the skills you need to be better at that. I want to say an audience and persuasion and all that, but just don't try to be somebody else, or be authentic, and people will see that. And talk back to your point about connection, and that's storytelling, and people will connect with you. Yeah, and stuck by me because other though you see what's available and you think, oh, it must have to be like Anthony Robbins. Well, no, you don't. Or it must have to be like this person. Well, no, you don't. You got to be yourself. Take the parts you like, and to be better at that particular role or what you're doing. But remain authentic, because otherwise it's hard work.
Yeah, and I think the reality is eventually you stumble and then people see it.
Yep. Oh,
and
it's exhausting too to the act, the facade, all the rest of it.
Plenty of examples of that. Hey, when people then they get exposed. And,
and I think that comes through. Hypocrisy is the worst form of leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do. And I think, I imagine as trainers, you got to be real careful as that too, don't you? Like, can't go spruiking into your client that this is how you need to live, and then the next thing they do, they see
the exact opposite.
I say to people, don't put me on a pedestal, because I am going to fucking disappoint you.
Correct.
Admire some of my traits and all that stuff if you want, but do not put me on a pedestal, because I am going to, at some point, I'm going to do something that you're going to go, oh, that's not what I thought you would be like. Well, I fucking told you.
I told you. You're exactly right. And I think at the end of the day, if you're trying to be someone you're not, you'll eventually fall over.
Oh,
yeah. All right, so the list is big. 6 NRL teams, women's cricket, AFL. Who have we missed on the sheet?
You missed one of my favourite teams.
Yeah.
The Brisbane Lions women's team.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, and they've got an amazing story. And I like...
Sexist?
Really?
You knew that was one of his favourite teams. No.
They are a great bunch of... So we were lucky enough, and the reason why they are one of them, they came traditionally to, if you look at it, not a lot of women's sport had been professional.
Yeah, right.
And not a lot of them had sort of been exposed to what these style of camps would be, because of exactly what you're getting at, is that predisposed gender bias around, they're women, they can't do this or they can't do that. And being the father of 2 daughters, I'm pretty passionate about the opportunity for women in women's sport and what it done. Yep. We got them sort of at the pre-season of last year. They'd just come off a grand final that they'd lost, but they got absolutely sort of cleaned out of this. When I say cleaned out, 4 of their top girls got poached by others, and everyone had come out to them and said, it's rebuilding time, rebuilding year. And one of our boys, Button, is also tied up in women's coaching, and he said, they're keen to do it. And I said, beautiful. And it was even funny, and I don't even know if the girls have often heard this story about that, but he goes, we just got to be careful with them. And I said, no, we don't. I said, if they're coming to us, mate, it's full box and dice.
That's right, the full treatment.
They get the full treatment. He's, okay, well, so we got him there that first day, and sometimes you'll see in our courses, just for effect, we can fire the temperature goes up, so to speak. Well, the girls are throwing chairs and running around, and needless to say, the next 2 days we gave them the sort of the full, and the way they responded was just phenomenal. And then we were lucky to sort of keep that relationship with us, and they went on and won the flag last year.
Yeah.
Just, nice. Against all odds, this was a group. And I think why I particularly really like this group is because they did it because they outworked everyone.
I love that.
They were considered a bit, their I guess their persona out in the wider AFLW community is, they were clean hands, run wide, Whereas this, they won because they were down and dirty.
Yeah.
And that's my sort of, fucking just outwork them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So these girls, they were awesome, and lucky enough that they enjoyed it so much, they brought us back. So we've done now 2 years with them, and they're playing tomorrow night. They're playing again in another prelim final, which
that's awesome.
How good
for a club to sort of get back again. Yeah, so super excited. So work with them. Worked with the soccer team, West Sydney Wanderers. We worked with them Work with the Australian Lawn Bowls team. How
I
about
love it.
that?
That's
How
I didn't think that'd
good.
be on the list, did they?
Yeah. What a great bunch of people they were too.
Yeah.
Obviously, the
Average age?
Yeah.
Well, at the high level, they're young, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah. Look, they weren't.
Not after the camp.
Yeah. But it goes to show you that the sort of the skills and the games and the different things that we do with people.
Yeah.
It's actually designed to look at high performance, not to be a physical, a physical beasting session. Because and it was explained to me by one of the guys I work at the Torian Pro with. You can break anyone physically. Doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a soccer player.
Well, any of them. We just say, right, go out to the car park.
No offense to soccer players, I had to say it.
I'll tell you, they're an interesting group. They're fit, fit,
they'd be
unbelievable fit.
Did anyone they pretend to do that? They pretend on the soccer field.
We had no balance. You could imagine
Red
how
card.
there would have been a lot of red cards for that. Yeah. But you can, like we say, you can break anyone by just go out on the bitumen road and do 200 burpees.
Yeah.
By the 50th burpee diving into bitumen.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So that's not what it's about. We've learned over time, I think those original ones, this is about building character.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's probably the subtle nuance that we've learned is the selection process for cert is a selection process. In other words, if you're not up to the standard, see you later.
Mm.
But you can't do that to a sporting team who has a kid signed for 3 years for 800. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, he's not going to make it.
Exactly.
We're going to have to get rid of him.
You go poor investment there.
Exactly. So this is more about the kid who's getting paid 800. If he has some of those traits that are less desirable, it's seeing him in a safe environment where he can or she can see them and go, hey, what do you reckon?
Yeah.
Reckon that was a shit act you just did? And they go, oh, yeah, it was. And look, what it will do is if that person will either change or what it will do is it will give the club a good enough view whether that person needs to be part of their long-term future.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen it, with people coming through our program and you go, this person's got potential. There's a lot that they've got to get sorted in their character building and their emotional intelligence, but they got potential, and we would give them the advice and some would run with it, and then you'd see them just turn into amazing humans and leaders and business owners, and others that don't. But you're right, just as you were saying that, you've got this young person that doesn't have the skill set yet, and it's an environment where you can help them to see where they can grow into, and like you said, they rather do or they don't, right? And
I often talk about it. We take them to the ledge, but we just hang them over, and we got a hold of them.
Yeah.
So we don't throw them over.
Yep.
Because you can't do that. Like at the end of the day, too, we are a business, and they are coming to us.
Yeah.
We get nothing out of breaking someone to a kid to where or a person where they're unusable for that year.
Yeah.
What we do though is we get a lot out of exposing different qualities, providing them with the tools to do it. The most successful clubs, can I tell you, the reason why Penrith, Canterbury went on to do what they did, the Bulldogs, Newcastle went on, when we worked for them, went on that 10-game streak and have gone back up, is because the people that are in that club are reinforcing the lessons. Because, as I always say, once we go and you leave us, if you do nothing, then you'll have had a great 3 days, but you will not get better.
Yeah.
I can't. It's the old. I can take you down. I can lead a horse to water. I can't make you drink.
Yeah.
But for this, even more so, is I can give you the skill set. Hey club. Hey coach. Hey Ciro. Hey Adam. All these people we work with. Unless you reinforce this, unless this becomes your DNA, you're not going to see the same benefits. And look, we often say we steal unashamedly.
Yeah.
In other words, we go and look at the best cultures across business, sport, whatever, and we go and pick the best parts of it. And what we do too is we often talk about our failings. I think it's super important. We often say when we present, hey, just so you know, we have just about fucked everything in the business to get to this point. Do you know what I mean? Because we talk to young athletes about the mistakes that goes on.
Yeah.
I heard Ben Ikin talk about it once. People who want to run headfirst into other people are risk takers, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the notion that they're not going to take risks in their personal life and what they do is fanciful. What it is about having good structures around them so that if they do, that you can pick them up, or that the risk isn't that bad that it's so detrimental that it can end a career and do that. And it's the same for everything that you would do with a business person. It's about exposing the traits, but if they don't go back into their workplace, if they don't put those traits and those skills and those behaviours and those lessons into what they do, it will just be a great experience.
That's right.
And that's good. Maybe you just want that.
Yeah, and if I'm hearing that, not only just on a club level, but individually, each individual's got to buy into it and go, okay, what do I personally take away from this, and contribute to that greater picture.
Yeah, and to the point there, like I brought up at the start, is for me, my experience, it fundamentally changed who I was as a person, as a leader, and it wasn't. Again, some of it wasn't all good too, but I often talk about one of the things that I did have coming out of that was this insatiable appetite to win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All I ever wanted to do was win.
Yeah.
But sometimes you realise that winning isn't always being successful. Because sometimes winning means I'm standing over people. Well, this is from business, like I'm running over relationships. I'm treating people like shit because I want to win. In fact, I and I'm sure,
winning at what cost, right?
Yeah, and look, I'm sure people that have been close to me in my life, and some would know, it is around. Sometimes I had a really bad trait around. I had to get that moral victory. I was going to win everything, the argument, all that sort of thing that would go on.
Can relate. Yeah.
Got a great life lesson from an external mentor that said to me, I was having a conversation about a problem that was going on. He said, and he looked at me like I was fucking simple, and I am. And he said, Simon, stop fighting yesterday's battles.
Yeah.
And when you stop and you unpack what's he saying there, that was yesterday.
Gone.
It's gone. You've either won or lost it.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I'd lost it, and I wanted to go back and try and get a win. But it was like, you can't, because that was in your...
Yeah.
If you're not looking forward and you're not looking at what's the next piece for you or getting better from doing it, and you're hung up on something that happened behind you, you're actually not winning anyway.
Yeah.
So there are some of those... And... it happens in business, it happens in life, it's all those things. And there's some of those lessons that you can get and you take into you.
Oh, yeah.
And so transferable to every aspect there.
Oh, big time. You're talking about pressure, how you perform under pressure, business, arguments, people you care about, sport, it's all the same.
So important. Now, you guys are still working full-time jobs, right? So you're limited to how many of these you could deliver in a year, right? Your time is very limited.
Yep.
You got the highest level. You got really our Australia's sporting
elite,
upper echelon there, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And we're very excited to announce the fact that we, Trainer HQ, have partnered with Testing Limits Together. So those of you tuning into the podcast going, how do I get on this thing? How do I become get part of this whole process? Well, now's the opportunity, because we've launched the first Trainer HQ Testing Limits Together 3-day immersive experience.
Yeah.
Love it.
Cannot wait. This is going to be so cool.
It's going to be huge, happening in September 2025, so plenty of lead time. So those of you who will be listening to this, it will be well and truly launched by that stage. So you've started to unpack most of it. So can you give us, without giving too much away, but can you give us a brief highlight package on what our Trainer HQ community can expect to come along to the immersive experience?
Yeah, and can I start by thanking
200 burpees on the bitumen?
Yeah, exactly. I'll thank you too, Blake. And look, I've known personally for a long time, Brad and I and Jason, we've been talking about this, because the synergies of what you do with your people, to me, just relates exactly to what we try and do with high-performing teams. So, I'm excited. The boys are excited about what we can do, and we're more excited about what people will get out individually. And here's the beauty of it. like most people, even the elite players, I'm sure they'll get on and Google the website. They'll see the videos. They'll do everything. I'll give you a little tip. You can watch everything about us until you're living this experience. You won't know what's happening.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, it's like anything in life, isn't it? You can.
Hang on. So on the video,
correct.
We were supposed to be doing that at this point.
And look, they can pretty much guarantee they're going to get the same experience that we would give to an elite NRL, elite AFL team, all that. And we've done very similar things with corporates before. Your group we're exceptionally excited about because we think the transferability of being in the fitness industry and the skill sets, it's not about the physical nature of what they'll do.
Yep.
You know, don't worry about that. But we will do lots of great things. It'll be 3 amazing days. But we'll also have some amazing presenters coming in.
Yeah.
We will have Peter Clark, who's the Australian women's cricket psychologist, just come and talk about the psychology of high performance and the psychology about. He does a great presentation called "Own Your Shit." You know, like it's such a simple concept, owning your shit, because owning your shit, whether it be for a sports person about their performance or a business person about how you set it up, your governance, your callback, all those things that you're talking about, the fundamentals and the psychology that sits behind that, it's exactly the same.
Awesome. Yeah.
So from our point of view, you know, they'll come out, they'll enjoy it. They're going to get, you know, they'll get the top tier TLT. So we're well and truly committed to this. To your point, the reality is it's a passion project for us. So we don't have a lot of time. We don't do many of these a year. The reality is we only probably work with 2 or 3 corporate clients like this. And Trainer HQ will be the only place 2025 external that you'd be able to get in to come and do this experience with us. And we're excited. I think people will get a lot out of it.
And in terms of numbers, I think we touched on this, 30 is probably the max.
The reality is, and we did talk about this, is we want people to come and get the full experience.
Yep.
And to do that, 30 is the maximum that we can do, because there's also a lot of really cool things that we do with people, and that takes time, and there's some things that we have equipment and we need different things. I won't give too much away. But, 30, unfortunately, that's the reality, and I think we discussed, as much as it is, we're only going to have the one opportunity next year.
Yeah, that's great. And, you know, like we're always looking at what else can we provide our community, you know, things that beyond just business that are going to help build them resilience, all the things we've been talking about. And this is just another one of those opportunities. You know, we go to Bali, we get people doing firewalking. There's all these different stuff we do. And it's not about the firewalk. It's about, if I can do that, what else can I do?
Yep.
So if I can get myself to do something I thought maybe would be impossible, what else can I then take into my business or my personal life? So I'm really excited about this, because hearing all the success that teams have had, sporting teams, well, you're in business and you want to take yourself to the next level, this is going to do it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point that you bring up about that mental marker.
Yeah.
And we often talk about that through the time they'll spend with us. Is we'll do some things that they will feel will be physically out of their realm. They're actually not. It's more your mind telling you. But that ability of sitting back at a time where it's high stress and things are going. I remember I was on that TLT camp. This is nothing.
Making this sales call is nothing.
Yeah. Listen, I remember Saki yelling like a lunatic. This guy is nothing. Let me give him a call.
But the thing I love too is we look back now at the 18 years of running this business, and we look at all the success stories we've had, and there's the financial component. People reach their goals, targets, all that stuff, and that's all well and good. But the next part is we go, it's the person they become in the process. So what we go, people see to go and do is they go on and they find their ultimate relationship. They get to live in the type of house they want to live in. They get to engineer a lifestyle for them that's most important.
Team of people. Yeah.
And then we get to our end of year events where it's a big celebration of everything that they've achieved. And one of the biggest things they talk about, the financial part, it gets discussed, but it's not the main thing. It's the impact that it's had on these people's lives. It's the experience they had. It's the connections they've made. It's the person they've turned into as a result of doing all those actions.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And this I see is to be another one of those opportunities for people inside the Trainer HQ community to fully experience that and just to go, okay, here's the next thing for me to be able to add. And like you said, it's a never-ending journey. We keep growing and so forth.
Yeah, look, we're really lucky. You know, they'll come in, you know, the 6 people that we have, we are really diverse too. You know, like Revlon. You know,
Revlon.
This will
we
be,
have to do another podcast on all these nicknames.
Yeah. And Ed and Beaker and Button. Like each one of the 6 people, and I think that's the beauty of it, the 30 that will come, will relate to one of those 6 personalities of TLT. And there'll be actually, you know, at 30 people, this is, you know, the complexities of it. We will have over 10 to 12 dedicated staff to do that, just to run it. It won't just be the 6 of us who are the, you know, the owners of it. We have to bring other people in because we want the experience to be so immersive that the people participating in it are getting the highest possible thing. So, you know, the boys do a great job coming in, and it will be great for the participants, and they will connect with the directing staff as they go through it.
Going to be so good. So we'll launch the dates anywhere you're tuning to this, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the rest of it. We'll put the link in to get there. Don't make an inquiry on the Testing Limits website because
contact us.
You could be bitterly disappointed when you don't get your ticket and the boys tell you it's sold out. And you go, but I sent my inquiry to those idiots.
I said I wanted in.
Unless you think you're going to get yourself a position on the Penrith Panthers NRL side or something like that, then that's But yeah, it's going to be super cool. But I just love. I could listen to this all day, and I'm just so much looking forward to the experience that it's about to deliver for everybody. So super pumped. So those of you tuning into it, make sure you find out about this, get on board, because it's going to be literally a life-changing experience for you.
And to wrap up, just make sure you give us a like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on, just so we can keep doing more of these podcasts and delivering high quality podcasts and information and interviews. So do that.
Love it. Simon Taylor, Testing Limits Together. Thank you, brother. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Signing off.